All right, welcome everyone to GSD with Tanwa Part 1, Day 2. So GSD, did you get any shit done last week? Anybody news here today? Anybody new? Just join. So first of all, thank you for all the 10 people or 9 people, because one just quit. All the 9 people that are watching me right now. So I'm probably 2 of them because I'm monitoring the live with another video, but doesn't matter. So welcome you all to get back here again today with me, GSD with Tanwa, getting shit done with Tanwa. So part 1 again, we're going to talk about how to get better at English, because you need English to graduate. That's why you all are here. And last week we talked about why you suck at English, right? And then we talked about because you don't really want to learn English, right? You only want to learn English because you want to graduate, which is not the right motivation to have. So yes, last week I guess I yelled at you enough that hopefully you now want to learn English because you want to learn English, right? Say yes. Say hell yeah. So what we are doing today is we're gonna start identifying your weaknesses. So let's say you want to learn English, right? You're ready to move on from learning English just to graduate to learning English just to be better at English, right? And then you go, well, I suck, right? Remember the S curve we're talking about, the learning curve, right? So you're probably down here. That's why you're here, right? You're probably down here waiting for your moment to shine, your moment to catch the ride on that ascending star to be like the English master, right? But then you're like, well, I'm down here right now working on my weaknesses, but I'm not sure where to start, right? That's what we're going to talk about today. So therefore, for this video, I'm going to assume that you have enough motivation to learn English. You're now sufficiently convinced that knowing English, or any languages for that matter, for the sake of knowing languages, is better than just learning it just to graduate, right? So today we're going to talk about, well, how to get better. Now that you want to get better, you truly want to get better, how to get better. All right. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what I call the 3 aspects of language. Right, the 3 aspects of a language. I don't make any of this shit up. Okay, I look into the research when I was studying language myself. In particular, English. I was looking into the research a bit, and some of the research is so new that you probably have not heard about it before. So that's what I'm going to share with you today, right? When you learn a language, especially English, you probably have heard many different ways of doing it. If you are a Thai student, the first method of learning that you have been exposed to since you were young is to learn a shit ton of grammar, right? You'd be like, oh my God, I know the grammar. I know like the tenses. I know how to do like the 3 forms of tenses, like I eat, ate, eaten. And then you just do that shit like for 10 years. And then at the end of that 10 years of English education, you go, I still cannot speak English. And then you go, what the fuck? So then you start hearing people talk about, well, in learning language, you should not learn grammar. You should learn how to speak and to communicate. Who among you have heard that? Like, oh, don't learn grammar, just ignore grammar, just learn about conversation, just like enjoy learning music, I'm not music, sorry. Just enjoy learning language and listen to the movie that you like, Even I said it sometimes, right? So some of you might have heard that, like, oh, just ignore the grammar entirely, focus on the conversation, focus on communications. To those people, I say bullshit. Okay, so that's why what we're gonna touch on today with the 3 aspects of a language, right? So the 3 aspects of a language looks like this. Hold on, let me share this screen of me drawing something at you, right? So a language has 3 main aspects that you have to master if you want to be good at a language, right? So the 3, I need to change to a pen. The 3 aspects, my handwriting is amazing, so please don't make fun of it. The 3 aspects of a language And the first one, what you call grammar, right? What you call grammar of a language is actually what researchers call precision, right? Why is it important, right? Why is it important? Precision, it allows you to speak the language the way it should be spoken. What do I mean by that? You can communicate without precision, and you probably have seen an example of this before, right? Communicating without a precision is when you hear a shopkeeper at a weekend market trying to sell something. You'd be like, "Oh, that one cheap. This one cheaper. You get this one," right? So stuff like that, like stuff that doesn't need precision. You can get the communication done, but it doesn't have the precision, right? Compared to most of the speeches that you probably have heard in the past, right? Most of the great speeches in the world that you have heard in the past, like, oh, Martin Luther King, I have a dream, right? Lincoln, Gettysburg Address, like Winston Churchill, right? You know, I will fight on the beach. Precision is important, not at the level of basic communication, right? Precision is important at the higher level of communication. And by higher level, I don't mean it's better, it's just like different spheres of communication, right? A higher level of communication is when you really need the language to be precise at what you are trying to say. So academic English is one of the example of why you need precision, right? For example, I could say, this drug that I discovered can cure cancer, right? That's communication, right? But I probably didn't mean that, because if it's a research, I probably wanted to say this drug that I discovered have a potential of curing cancer, right? See the difference? The first one I just say can cure cancer, right? Which means like it definitely can do it, right? The second one I said can have a potential of curing cancer, right? Which means that it might work, it might not work, it needs more research, right? So precision is really important. If you know English but you don't have the precision, you are no different than people who don't have academic English, right? And the only way to have more precision is to learn the grammar, right? To learn the grammar, practice it in and out, right? Imagine if, well, I don't want to talk shit about people, but this is a very obvious example. Compare the speeches and the difference in the speeches between Barack Obama and Trump, right? We're not talking about politics, right? We're not talking about policies. We're not talking about politics. I'm just talking about the language, okay? Compare the eloquence or the beautifulness of the language between Barack Obama, who has a great control and crazy precision when it comes to using English, with Michael Trump, right? Both of them can communicate in English, obviously. Like both of them can communicate what they're trying to say, but they have different level of precision, right? Whereas Barack Obama would say, this policy is a paradigm shift in the healthcare of American lives. Donald Trump would just say, this policy is bigly, it's the biggest thing I have ever seen in my life, right? You see the difference, right? This policy is a paradigm shift in American lives. And then this policy is big. It's going to be the biggest thing you have ever seen in your life, right? So the level of precision that you have, you're going to be judged by it, right? When you write a paper, if your paper has no precision, you will not get that paper to go through the editor, right? So the only way to do precision, unfortunately, is to do the grammar and to practice it. We will talk about like how to get to the practice part in a little bit, right? So that's what I call precision, or what the researchers are calling precision, right? So you might be able to communicate well, but don't have precision. The second aspect of a language is what I call what the researchers call fluidity, right? Fluidity. This is how well you can speak the language, right? You can have the most precision in the world, right? You can have the best precision in the world. You can have the best grammar, but if you're not fluid in using it, if you have to think about it a lot, you will not be able to communicate, right? If you have to think about it, you will not be able to communicate. You see the difference, right? That sentence is grammatically correct. It's super precise, but nobody will wait around to talk to you about it, right? Meanwhile, you can have crazy fluidity, right? You can have crazy fluidity without precision as well. For example, some of the common shopkeepers that you see in Thailand. Well, granted, some of the shopkeepers are really good at speaking with both fluidity and precision, right? I'm not shitting on the shopkeepers. I'm just giving you the common example, right? So you see some people that can speak something very fluid, right? Like, I go beach. And then I would be like, well, you mean you went to the beach, right? Because you're not going there right now. You went to the beach yesterday. And then you were like, yeah, I go beach yesterday, right? Which is fine. I'm not saying it's wrong, first of all, right? Having fluidity is amazing, because that means that you are not afraid of speaking the language, right? You're not afraid of speaking the language. So having fluidity is awesome. Having precision is awesome. Having both is better, right? So this is what I mean when you hear someone. So fluidity comes in when you want to communicate, right, in real time. And by communication, I don't just mean talking to people. I also mean like watching movies, listening to music, reading a poem, processing news, reading road signs, stuff like that, right? So if fluidity is what you have and you don't have precision, don't feel bad, right? At least you have something, right? Everyone has a strong point somewhere, but also weaknesses everywhere else, right? So just keep that in mind. Having fluidity is awesome as well. Now the last, so these two, if you still not sure what I mean, is by precision and fluidity, is to think about mathematics, right? I'm sure all of you can multiply numbers, right? If I say, hey, 2 times 3 is what? Everyone will say 6, right? So precision is being able to give the correct result, right? 2 times 3 is 6, right? But fluidity is able to give the answer quickly. So I could say like 2 times 3 is what? And you could say 5. And I was like, damn, you are fluid, but you're not precise at all. Or I could say, hey, what is 2 times 3? And then you'll be like, 6. And then we're like, you are correct, but you are boring as hell, because I'm not going to wait around for the answer, right? So that's the difference between precision and fluidity, okay? And the third aspect, which is what most people call accent, right, is what I call intonation. Well, what everyone's calling intonation, I guess. I keep saying I because I learned it, so I call it this way, damn it. So accent is what most people think is important, and it's true. It is important up to a certain degree. Obviously, I don't have like, a native accent, because I don't give a shit to have a native accent, right? But all of you understand me just fine. Any English speakers will be able to understand me just fine, right? But what is intonation, right? Or if you want to call it accent, right? What is an accent, right? Is it important, right? Most of you don't want to speak English because you feel embarrassed by your accent. And I say, well, bullshit. You don't want to speak English because you're afraid of making a mistake. You're not ashamed of your accent. You just don't want to look stupid in front of other people. And to that, I would say, well, don't give a shit about accent yet, right? If you have the precision and the fluidity, most people will understand you, right? And if you look at your senior in the university when they give presentation, probably they have good precision and fluidity, but not the intonation. So they would say something along the line of, the 3 aspects of a language are precision, fluidity, and intonation. And that would be fine, right? Because you are communicating, right? You don't have the best intonation, but you are communicating. Nevertheless, if you want to be better at a language, you need to learn the intonation. So what is an accent? What is an intonation? The best way to describe it without going into like the academic details or whatever is that intonation is the music of the language, right? So I could speak English the same, like the way most Thai people would speak. Well, I wonder if I can do it. So you basically take out all the intonation. You just speak very flat, and you don't make any sound at all, and you will sound very Thai, right? That's the music of the language because that's the music of the Thai language. So now you're trying to impose the music of the Thai language on top of English, which have different rhythm and music. Okay, so that's why most of you probably have an accent. I have an accent as well. You have to be trained, just like you have to be trained to play music. You have to be trained or practice to recognize the music of the language and try to speak the language in that way. Okay, and so today we're going to talk a little bit about how to touch on each of these three aspects of the language, especially intonation, right? But if you really want to get like a quick practice of intonation, just pretend you are like a European or something. Just be like, oh, I'm European now. I'm really good at English, right? So if I really want to pretend, I can really speak like an American because I can make the music of American language sounds like really good English, right? But I choose not to do that because, I don't want to sound like that. I could, right? Because I recognize the music. I have practiced it. So an accent is definitely your choice, right? It's just the music of the language. Anyway, right? So in addition to the three aspects of language learning, right? Intonation is, let me write it down. So you have it, the music of the language, right? So to get good at English, you need to be able to master all three of them, right? You can't be super fluid with really good intonation without precision because you're not going to be going far in your academic English. You can't have precision without and intonation without fluidity because, well, shit, you wouldn't be able to do anything because you have to sit and think for a long time. And if you have precision and fluidity, that's much better than the first two combinations. But if you want to get better, you eventually need to get better at intonation of the language. Okay. So why do I bring this up? Because from now on, you will hear people say, oh, just ignore the grammar. Bullshit, right? That's precision. Oh, just ignore communication. Study grammar first. Bullshit. That's fluidity, right? Or just ignore the accent. Like anyone will be able to understand you. Well, yes, but also bullshit. Because if you have better intonation, more people will understand you, and you will be understanding more people as well. So you can't neglect any of them. Okay. So on top of that, you have the 4 skills of a language. And most of you probably know this, especially if you have taken one of those standardized tests like TOEIC, TOEFL, whatever, right? So the 4 skills of a language are reading. Most of you probably know this. Just type it out in the comments or something. Listening, writing, and speaking. All right. So similar to the 3 aspects of a language, most of you will probably have heard of like, oh, just start with reading first, or just start with listening first. Just watch a movie, listen to a lot. Just start writing first, or just start speaking first. Just go up to a white person or like English speaking person and start speaking English to them. Well, I would say, well, shit, no. Do whatever the hell you want, right? Whichever one you are the strongest with, do that one first. Oh, sorry, the strongest at, not precise right there. Whichever one you are the strongest at, do that one first. For me, for example, I know exactly that I am much better at reading than listening, writing, or speaking, right? So I prefer reading a lot of books, right? So if you don't know where to start where you are strong, but do not neglect the other skills, right? So today, in addition to talking about how to improve each of the aspects of the language, we will talk about how to improve each of the 4 skills. as well. So you have 3 aspects and you have 4 skills, right? So in total, you have basically 12 things that you have to do, right? So 12 things as in you have to read with precision, you have to read with fluidity, and you have to read with intonation, right? You have to be able to understand the music that you're reading when you're reading it. You have to listen with precision, you have to listen with fluidity, and you have to listen with intonation, right? Listening with intonation means being able to understand different accents of people. And then writing the same way, right? You have to write precisely and fluidly, and also write with the same intonation as in the same music and idiom as the native speaker. And speaking is what we have been doing, right? Fluidity, precision, and intonation. So 12 things that you have to try, right? At this point, most of you are like, oh, well, shit, I give up. Too many things to do. Like, I don't know where to start, right? So that's the point of this video, right? How to identify your weakness, right? How to identify your weakness. I would say you already know where your weaknesses are. Your weaknesses are the areas that you don't want to do, right? So for me, for example, I know exactly that when I started learning English, I always want to go toward grammar, right? Because I'm a nerd and antisocial. I don't want to talk to people. That's why I'm doing this live instead of like an offline class, because I don't want to talk to all of you. I just want to talk to a goddamn webcam, right? So for me, for example, I know exactly that I prefer studying a lot about precision, and I also prefer reading, right? So I know exactly what I want to do. So my weaknesses are everything else, right? My weaknesses are everything else. So the same way would go with you, right? Your heart already knows what you want to do. Now you just have to work on what you don't want to do. Here lies the hardest part, right? Because if you're good at something, like I'm really good at reading like different languages. Like I can't speak, as I told some of you, I'm learning Spanish, right? I can't speak Spanish. I can't write Spanish. I can definitely not. I can listen Spanish somewhat, but my reading skill in Spanish is fantastic, right? So your weaknesses are what you don't want to do. Like if you have a choice, you would go do other things first. Those are your weaknesses. So let's see how you can improve any of them. Okay. All right. Boom, boom. Okay, hold on. My pen is not functioning well. All right, let's start with which skill would you like me to start with? Speaking, I guess, or reading? Writing? Let's do writing first, because you all are gonna need to write a lot for your degree, right? So let's start with that. So like I said, reading, you have 3 things, right? You have precision, fluidity, and intonation, right? So writing precisely is hard because writing is like a one-person endeavor, right? You're just doing it on your own, and sometimes you write something else and then you feel embarrassed and don't want to show people about it, right? So let me tell you what I did when I was younger, and I want to get better at writing, right? So what you have to do is that precision in writing comes from copying something that is precise. Right? Let me say that again. Precision in writing comes from copying something that is already precise, but then you change it to what you know well, right? So let me give you an example from. Did someone read something this last week that you found interesting in English? Send me a link. I can start with that, right? Send me a link of something that you find interesting, and then I will start with that. Otherwise, I will pick a random article that I want to use as an example, right? Or if any of you are studying any field in particular, science or whatever, just send me that link, and then we will talk about it. Otherwise, I would just go with a random ass article that I find online. No? Yes, no? Anybody there? All right, let me just show you what I usually do then. Right. So this is an NPR article Hold on. Let me make sure that I share this screen. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, not this one. Too many screens. All right. So in order to get better at writing, you need to start from a good model, right? You need to start from a good example. For example, this to the right is an example of an NPR article, right, about Martin Luther King. Oh, still here. Hi. Hi, Ajahn M. In order to get better at writing precisely, you need to start from a good example. So on the right is an NPR article about Martin Luther King, right? So what you need to do if you want to write precisely is to find an article in your field of study and just copy the language, right? Don't care about the content, just copy the language, make shit up. So for example, if I want to write about an important person, let's do so some of you probably know that I do some research on blockchain stuff. So let's write about Satoshi Nakamoto, right? If you don't know, that's the inventor of Bitcoin. So I could say, hey, let's start with this sentence, right? Today we celebrate the birthday of Martin Luther King Jr. So I would say, okay, this week we celebrate the birthday of Satoshi Nakamoto. And if I do that, then obviously that sentence is precise. Why? Because I copied it from a precise example, right? And you can keep going. You can say, hey, as millions of investors honor his work today with tweets, we take a moment to reflect on his life and message. Right? So how do I know that is precise? Because I use the same sentence structure, right? I use different words, but I use the same sentence structure and tenses and everything. So I know for the fact that it's precise, right? And if you look at any academic papers, there aren't that many variations in sentences, right? Like academic papers are boring as hell. So if you keep doing this, I guarantee you in 3 weeks, your writing would be so goddamn precise. Your advisor would be like, what the hell is going on? Did you hire someone to write it? Because that's what I did, right? I was studying physics, as I told you. So I just open up a bunch of physics paper and just make shit up, right? Just start writing in the same sentence structure as the example papers, right? Another option is to use the same sentence structure and profile and just do that for your content, right? So let's see, this is a sentence structure from this article, right? Let's say I don't want to write about people. Let's say I want to write about, I don't know, the degradation of mangrove forest. I just made this shit up, all right? So let's say I want to write about that. Well, I could say something along the line of, this year, we recognize that the mangrove forest in Thailand is in jeopardy, right? So you see the sentence structure, right? It starts with adverb of time, subject, verb, and then the object of that sentence. So adverb of time, subject, verb, and then the object of that sentence, right? The object of that sentence is the fact that the mangrove forest in Thailand is in jeopardy, right? So the benefit of doing this is that you always write something precisely, and also write something that sounds native as well in the process, because the sentence structure would just be the same as the article, right? Again, this is not the way you should be writing your thesis. This is just an exercise to improve your precision, okay? That's what I did. That's what, I don't remember who recommended me this, but it was fantastic, right? So use example in writing, right? Fluidity is more fun, right? For those of you who are precise at writing, but you can't write fast, right? For those of you who are precise at writing, but you can't write fast, I have an exercise for you. It's called free writing, right? This is an exercise that is done mostly by English authors like novelists, poets, who basically run out of idea to write, right? So they force themselves to write. And if you keep doing that, you will get better at writing fast, right? So what is free writing? Free writing is this. Free writing is you just keep writing about what? About anything, right? You just keep writing about anything. What do you write? How far do you write? Or like how long do you write? I would be like, well, write as long as you want. But let's start with 2 minutes from now. So I'm just gonna give you this example of how it's done, right? So this is a stopwatch, and I've done all of this myself, right? At some point, I spent a month. It was like November, and I spent the whole month writing about 25,000 words in English a day in free writing. Why do I do that? Because I want to be more fluent in writing. Right? So somebody give me an interesting topic to write about. Anything at all. Like seriously. Give me an interesting topic to write about. I can bitch about PSU if you want. Actually, they have a live audience here. They just laughed. So everyone loves PSU, right? Come on, give me an interesting topic that I can write about. And I can show you what free writing is. Nothing? Man, you all are boring. Yeah, let me make this bigger. Pardon the advertisement. All right, so let me just show you, let's see, tourism development. Yes, thank you, Kiki. Thailand economics. All right, I think Kiki came first, so I would just go with that one. Giving feedback. All right, let's do tourism development, right? So I know nothing about tourism development, right? But let's say I want to improve my fluidity, right? I want to be able to write faster about in English, right? So I just pick a random topic, and then I set a timer. Let's just do 1 minute. Normally I would do like 2 minutes at a time, right? But for the sake of time, I would just do 1 minute. So what I would do is I would set the timer or the countdown to go down to SpongeBob. Seriously, I would set a timer for the countdown to go down to 0. And in that 1 minute, I cannot stop writing, right? So the key to free writing is that you do not stop writing, you do not correct yourself, and you do not think about grammar. So let's see how that goes. So tourism, is the timer going? Go, there you go. Tourism development in Thailand sucks. Why? Because I don't think Thailand should rely only on tourism. Thailand should diversify the sources of income to other industry. I don't think Thailand tourism is all that fun anyway. Why? What do we have except for natural environments? We don't have Broadways, musical. I want more museum. I would love for cities to be more beautiful. I don't actually. There you go. Right? So why did I do that? It's called ranting. Exactly, Adan Chantini. It's called ranting, except the difference is that if you rant and write, you actually develop your fluidity. So what did I do? What did I just do, right? Obviously, I can go back to this and I can correct the grammar, right? I can correct the grammar because when I was writing super fast. Do not think about grammar when you do free writing. The goal of free writing is not to be precise. The goal of free writing is not to stop writing, right? And if you don't stop writing, you will develop enough fluidity to go through it, right? When you actually need the fluidity, when you actually need to write something that is both precise and fluid, you will be able to do it because you will go slower than this, right? So notice that I didn't correct my grammar at all when I was writing. I have like run-on sentences. I have like mistakes in writing. I have typos, right? I have random thoughts. I have random punctuations everywhere. But what did I not have? I did not stumble with writing at all, right? So keep doing that, right? If you are a very precise person like me, like if I have to write slow, I can be super freaking precise, right? But I need to be able to write fast. So again, I did this for about a month. Just one November, I was like, I need to write 25,000 words a day, right? And that's what I did. Even if you just have to write, like, I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. Trust me, if you had to write a sentences 5 times, the 6th time you will think of something to write and you'll be more fluid in writing it. Okay, so that's free writing, and that's what I did, right? Intonation in writing comes from the next topic that I would go about, right? Intonation in writing, again, is to be able to recognize the music and the phrasing and the wording that people use in writing, right? Which you cannot actually develop alone, right? You have to develop in concurrently with reading, right? You can't recognize good sentences if you don't know what good sentences look like, right? So therefore, you have to you have to read more stuff, right? You have to read a lot of things to be able to recognize good writing, right? So in reading also, you have precision, fluidity, and intonation, right? So precision is the hardest one to develop because precision in writing comes from more than just knowing English, right? Precision in reading comes from knowing the material as well. So it's kind of hard to convey this in person. I mean, not in person, in like on a video, but precision in reading means that you're able to take out the meaning that the other is trying to convey, right? The exact meaning that the other is trying to convey. What do I mean by this? When you read a book, an article, a paper, or whatever, right? It's you having a conversation with the other, right? That's what it is, right? The other cannot talk to you in person in real time, right? So the author wrote a book, a paper, or an article and put it up somewhere so that he or she can have a conversation with you at a later time, right? But it's a one-way communication because the other has spoken. So now you are listening to the author, right? So the precision of reading comes from able to understand what the other is saying. I'm sure some of you have read a paper and then you go, I don't know what the hell the author is saying because it is too hard for you. Right? Let me say that again. If you read a paper and you have no idea what the author is saying, it is too hard for you, right? I don't care if your advisor say, hey, go read this paper. Don't read that paper if you do not understand. Right? If the advisor say like, hey, this is like one of the most important paper in this field, you definitely have to read it. If you read it once or twice and you have no idea what the other is saying, stop reading it. You will not get any more things out of reading it until you have read easier stuff, right? So we will get into more details later when we talk about the specific skill of reading in a few weeks. But for now, keep this in mind. If you read something and you don't understand, then the language is too precise for you, right? You don't have enough precision to appreciate the language. So go read easier stuff, right? Okay. Woo. So pick the right level of reading. Again, pardon my handwriting. So fluidity in reading. So fluidity in reading is different, right? Sometimes you find this like really good book that is like at your level of reading because you can understand the sentence, but you can't read it fast enough, right? You can't read it fast enough, and it takes you forever to read, right? It takes you forever to read. So how many of you have had this problem? I will talk about this more in part 2 of this program, which is next semester, but I will just give you a little glimpse just to keep you coming back, right? How many of you have, like, when you have a paper that you think is important, you just like go like top to bottom. You just go, okay, this is the title, and you just read every single goddamn sentences on the paper, right? You just go, okay, in the introduction, the author said that this study is done in Thailand, and Thailand is situated in Southeast Asia, and then you keep doing that sentence by sentence. How many of you do that? And by the end of that paper, you just go, wow, that took like 2 hours to read that paper. Never ever, exactly. Never ever read a paper from top to bottom, right? That's people who do that don't have enough fluidity in reading to read a paper, right? We will talk more about this when we talk about reading skill, but for those of you who want a glimpse of what to come, one of the books that totally changed my life as far as reading go is this one called, surprisingly enough, How to Read a Book, right? How to Read a Book by Mortimer Adler, right? How to Read a Book, the classic guide to intelligent reading, right? There are different levels of reading. If you don't have enough fluidity, you will spend too much time reading things that are not important. Oh, whoops. So to increase your fluidity in reading, use different level of reading. Boom. All right. And now the intonation part. Now this is the fun part. The intonation in reading just means that you're able to recognize the level of materials that you're reading, right? Because some of the, for example, news article have different style compared to academic writing, right? News article, academic writing, pop pieces, tweets, they all have different styles. You have to be exposed to what you want to read in order to understand the style, right? If you want to understand academic English, for example, it does you no good to study pop music. Simple as that. You have to practice how you want to play, right? If you want to play soccer, you don't want to be practicing swimming, right? If you want to write academic English, well, you have to read a shit ton of academic English papers, right? So it's simple as that. So this just called read a lot, but also read intelligently, right? See the earlier item, right? So once you have read a lot, then this feeds back to writing, right? So that will get you to start to recognize that whether your writing fits into the style of the things that you want to learn or not. So just read a lot, right? For those of you who are like, holy crap, there's a lot of things to do. Correct, right? In the next few weeks, we will go down into each of the skills individually, right? So writing, reading, listening, and speaking, and see how we can improve the PFI, or the precision, fluidity, and the intonation of each of the skills. So I'm just giving you the lay of the land right now, okay? So don't freak out yet, or freak out, doesn't matter, right? But at least learn something. All right, so that's writing and reading, and then you have, not that color. And then you have listening. So same thing. Listening with precision, right? Listening with precision is just like reading with precision. You need, basically, you need to understand exactly what the other is saying, right? But listening is harder. Why? Because you don't normally you are not able to go back in time to listen to the other again. But that was when I was learning a lot of English, right? In your days and age, like, it's so freaking fantastic because you'll be learning a lot of things online, like on YouTube or Facebook or whatever, right? So one of the things that you can do is you can always go back and learn it again or listen to it again, right? So you can go back and listen to it as many times as you want, right? So once you have found the material that you think is important for you, listen to it as many times as you want just to understand it completely, right? So that's the first complication, which is solved by technology, right? You're not able to listen. You're not able to listen to materials more than once, which is solved by technology. The second method, the second complication when it comes to precision listening, is that you don't understand the context. And what I mean by that is that, especially if you meet a native person or a person that has spent a lot of time abroad, they will start using idioms and slangs that you don't understand, right? Which is fine. That's part of the fun of knowing the language, right? There is no better way. There is no way to solve that problem. The only way to solve that problem is to get shit done and Google shit up, right? So when you hear something like, "Oh, what does bullshit means?" Right? It's like, "Oh, I don't understand what does bullshit mean." Well, that's really simple. You say, "Hey, bullshit meaning," and it becomes, "Oh, bullshit just means stupid or untrue talk of writing nonsense." Oh, cool, right? So in your days and age, there should not be a single thing that you do not understand. For example, as I told you, I spent a lot of times growing up in the States. So when I came back to Thailand, I did not understand many of the languages or like terms or slangs that Thai students are using. So I did a lot of Google. For example, I didn't know what this means. Gang people, like I was like, well, is that like just like people eating curry together? And then I Google it up and it doesn't work. And then I was like, oh, แปลว่าอะไร right? And then I was like, oh, cool, that's the one that I want, right? Again, I'm not trying to be politics. I'm just talking about the language learning right here. So in this day and age, there is no excuse to not knowing something precisely, right? You can Google anything else. So listening just mean that, listen to, make sure you understand all that is being said. Right. The second part, fluidity, this one is hard, right? This one is just, I'm going to tell you right now, this one is just like exercise and losing weight. There is no way to be more fluid than to just listen a lot, right? Listen a lot, listen to a lot of things, listen to music in English, listen to news in English, listen to everything in English, right? You will start to get better, right? There's no better way to do this than to listen to a lot of things. So this is just like purely hard work. If you're like, oh man, I really didn't know that, I just wanted quick tips on how to get better at English, I'd be like, well, shit, that's none, right? How badly do you want to get better at English, right? Go get shit done. Go read something. Go listening to something, right? Well, the last one is the most fun part, though. Like the intonation and listening is the most fun part, right? Because you have different people with different accents, and then you can just like have fun talking and thinking about it, and knowing, like, able to listen to people with different accents and intonation is actually one of the coolest thing of learning a language. And I would say we'll be exposed to many different nations because we have a lot of English speakers. So be exposed to many different variety of English. And once you are exposed to more accents, you actually understand the language better. Let me show you this clip from who knows Trevor Noah? Who knows Trevor Noah? He's like a funny guy. So I'm not just trying to show you a random clip right now. I am trying to show you this clip because Trevor Noah is one of the funniest comedian, and also he's very observant when it comes to the intonation of the language, like the accent of the language and whatnot. So see how observant he is when it comes to language. Hold on, let me share it with audio, right? Hopefully I'm not going to get copyright for this, but we find out, right?
Thank you. Too much applause. This could be shit, but thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming out. How's everyone doing tonight? Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Or as the French say, good evening. No, it's bonjour, bienvenue. Yes, yes. I'm learning. I'm trying to practice my French. I'm not gonna lie, Montreal probably has the sexiest border I've ever come to in my life. Yeah, I didn't feel like I was being interrogated. I felt like I was being flirted with. It was really sexy. And sir, what are you planning to do in Montreal? I'm planning to stay. That's what I'm doing. The French, the French, the most romantic language in the world. No, the accent is romantic as well, but it is. It's funny how every accent has its own connotation to it. Speak with a French accent, you are sexy. How are you, ladies? And then there's some accents just have no sex appeal to them at all. Like the Russian accent. There's nothing sexy about it. Everything the Russians say sounds dangerous and menacing. Doesn't matter what they say, because they've got that thing. Yes, I'm Russian. Go to kill you, break you, destroy your family.
Anyway, so that's an example of a fun way of learning a language, right? You need to be able to listen to different intonation and able to understand it, right? To understand the intonation of many different accents will make you better at learning English because you are more exposed to a wider selection of materials, right? You can listen to many other more things. He's actually from South Africa, right? Initially, but as you can see, he doesn't. He has a totally perfect American accent. Why? Because he studied the shit out of intonation, right? This guy is like the funniest person, and also he can do a lot of accents, right? I can't do any accents because I suck at it, right? So that's listening with intonation, right? Expose yourself to many different variety of material. So just this one just go together. It's just like listen a lot, which sounds stupid, but we'll talk more about it when we get to that skill of listening, right? So the last one is what most of you concerned with, right? So let's do it. Start with precision. Precision in speaking is hard. Hard. Why? Because it's not our native language. Like I spent a shit ton of years in America, and I'm still not precise when I speak. Right? Well, I'm more precise than most people, but if you actually go back and like listen to me closely, I make a lot of grammatical mistakes when I speak. Why? Because like I think fast. Like I actually have to force myself to slow down and speak slower when I talk on a video with you guys. So like it's hard, but you can practice it. Like I have done it myself, right? And we will talk about how to practice it when we get to the speaking part. It's basically called anticipation. Which is a skill that most musicians have, right? If you play piano, you know that the note that you're playing is not the note that you are reading, right? The note that you are playing, the note that you are reading is the note that you're about to play, right? So basically, you play this note, but your eyes looking at this note, right? Your eyes are looking at the next note over, so you keep going like that. So it's like anticipation of what to come. So it takes a lot of practice, and it's hard, like I said. When I was practicing it, you basically have to think about the next word that you want to speak before you speak it, just to make sure that you can do it precisely, right? It takes a lot of effort, which is why when I'm sometimes too excited or just too tired, I make a lot of grammatical mistakes or just don't care about what I'm speaking, right? Or ranting, as Ajahn Chantini said, then I would be making a lot of mistakes. But that's fine. That's part of the game, right? I'm not very good at speaking. So yeah, but it's called anticipation. We will talk about it when we get to the speaking part of the course, right? Fluidity. Fluidity is fun. Fluidity is probably it depends on who you are. If you are a social person, fluidity is the most fun part of learning language. Fluidity is just you shooting the breeze. Go look that one up. Shooting the breeze with native speakers or like any English speakers like me or Jan Chini or whatever, right? So just chatting. Just start chatting. Just talk your ass off. Just talk about anything. Talk about the weather. Talk about dating lives. Talk about like study. Complain about PSU and why like bathrooms in building 6 suck so much. Talk about anything. That's how you improve fluidity in speaking, right? It's the same way as free writing. You need to talk a lot to get better at being fluid, right? Which is why I sometimes talk a lot, because I suck at speaking and I will take any and all opportunity to just talk, right? So part of the reason why I'm doing this, because I want to keep up with my fluidity in speaking, right? So just I would say T-Yao, which stands for talk your ass off. Just keep talking, right? And another thing is that you don't have to talk to anyone either. Like, I don't have no friends. Well, sorry, that's just like hip hop English. I don't have many friends, right? So especially when I was in America, like the first 2 or 3 years, like I told you guys, I had no friends. So what I did was I was just talking to myself in a mirror, which sounds really freaking sad right now, but it's okay, right? Because I was doing it to improve English, right? So talk your ass off when you wake up, look in the mirror and just talk to yourself. You talk to yourself in Thai already. Why don't do it in English, right? Just do it in English. Set up a timer, 1 minute, and then talk to yourself. What's the big deal? Nobody will find out except you. And that's fun, right? Intonation. This is the hard part. This is also, everything is hard, I guess. But this is the hard and fun part, because you get to pretend that you are like a native speaker, right? I remember when I was studying the intonation of speaking, and I want to speak like an American, I need to do a lot of practice. Like, you basically just distill, which means like take all of these skills and intonation from other skills, and then just boil down and combine it into the intonation of speaking, right? We will get to that in a little bit. Not a little bit. When we will get to that when we talk about the skill of speaking in the next few weeks. But this comes from being able to recognize the music. So hear the music in the language, right? So I remember when I was practicing, I bought this book called like The Perfect Guide to American Accent. And then I would be doing a lot of practice. Like, say, for example, this sentence, right? Dogs eat bones, right? That's one of the sentences that they made me practice. Don't ask me why that sentence. It's just the sentence that they want, right? So that's one of the sentence in the book. And initially, when I didn't know how to do intonation well in American accent, I would say dogs eat bones. Dogs eat bones, right? I was like, what's wrong with that? Dogs eat bones. It's actually not. It's dogs eat bones. Dogs eat bones. You see, you hear the difference in the music, like dogs eat bones. Dogs eat bones. Very different, right? Or you can go dogs eat bones. Dogs eat bones, right? And then there's like different stress, different musical quantity to it, quality to it, which we will get to when we get to that level, right? When we talk about speaking. But it's being able to recognize the music in the language. One of the best examples is this word, right? So again, don't worry about the accent too much. I know I'm talking about accent right now and telling you how to get better at doing it. But in the end, what's more important is not the intonation, but the precision and the fluidity, right? You only comes to intonation when you want to sound more native, right? The word they, right? The word they. So if you have to speak the word they, I'm sure most of you would just say they, like a day. There's a day in a there are 7 days in a week. It's actually not day, right? In American English, which is what I know, I can't do any other accent. I only know how to do American accent. You don't actually say day. You say day. Do it together now. Day. It's like this like swooping sound motion. You don't say a day. You say a day. A day. Right? So that's the kind of intonation and the music of the language that you have to be able to recognize in order to be able to speak like a native speaker and be better at speaking, right? But again, do not worry about the I part, the intonation part yet, until you get the precision and the fluidity to a certain level that you can communicate what you want. Once you can communicate what you want, then you can be worried about the intonation, because the intonation will help you communicate better. If you want to try another word, like another fun one is this word, right? Like a swimming pool. If that's too big, there, boom. Swimming pool. So most people in Thailand would call pool, swimming pool. It's not pool, it's pool. Just like the word day, right? If you speak it fast enough, it becomes day, and pool, it's like pool, right? So it's the music of the language that comes in. So you could say, hey, I have a swimming pool. Most people will understand you just fine. Why? Because you were precise and you were fluid, right? I have a swimming pool. But if you want to be better, you need to say, I have a swimming pool. I have a swimming pool, right? You hear the difference in the music, right? That's the intonation, right? Which comes from a lot of practice. But I will give you some techniques to start on your journey into practicing the intonation. In any case, what I want to point out today is this. This is the core of today, right? Do not neglect grammar. That's precision. Do not neglect communication. That's fluidity. And do not stop enjoying the language that you are learning, because it's intonation, right? You will not get better at a language unless you touch all three aspects of the language, right? You need to be precise, you need to be fluid, and you need to have the right intonation, right? You will not be perfect in all three, but you have to practice all three of them. I am very precise when it comes to writing. I suck at precision when it comes to speaking. I am very fluid in all sort of ways because I rant a lot, like Ajahn Chantini said. And my intonation is just kind of okay, right? But clearly I'm doing well because, I don't know, PSU is hiring me to teach you. So, well, shit. Again, these are the aspects that you cannot neglect, not a single one of them, right? Do not neglect grammar, right? And then once you have those three concepts in mind, apply them to the four skills of a language, right? You need to learn how to read, listen, read, listen, write, and speak in all three aspects. Oh, John Shantini is like, hey, I was just teasing about me ranting. Oh, I know. I rant a lot. I have no shames. All right. All right. At this point, it's 2:35. Any of you have any questions? Any of you have any questions about today? So again, today is about identifying your weakness in language learning, right? And most of you already know what you're bad at. Like for me, for example, I'm bad at speaking because I don't like to speak to people, right? And people don't want me to speak to them either. So you already know what you're bad at. You just need to work hard and get shit done on it, right? Because you want to learn English, right? And this is what it takes, okay? So in the next few weeks, starting from next week, we will start on one of these skills first. I haven't picked which one yet, but maybe you can give me a suggestion, right? And each week we will go into how do you improve the writing part in all part, in the PFI, and in the reading part in the PFI, listening and speaking. And at the end of part one, which is the English part, we will put it all together and basically combine them to give you a suggestion of where to go next after part one. All right. So that's the end of today. I don't see any questions from anyone. I still have 12 of you with me. So the first week I had 25, I think. So hopefully nobody will come back next week, so I can just say whatever about to say the F word. Say whatever the hell I want, which is not that much better. But that is day 2 of part 1. Now go get shit done and share your story online. Group chat. If you don't know how to join line group chat, look at the comment under this video, whether you're on YouTube or on your Facebook or whatever. There's a link there. Just click on the link so you can join the group, right? Remember to share your experience. If you're struggling with something, if you are enjoying something learning, share your experience so we all can do it together. All right. I will see you next week, Friday, 1:30. For today, ciao.